How do you build muscle?
Easy concept, maybe difficult to implement. It's the SAID principle, right?
Yeah.
The specific adaptations to the imposed demands. Are you putting your body through the right type of stressors that are going to elicit the muscle growth? And then if we, talk about the nutrition, are you eating the right kind of things to allow that process to happen? So in the exercise form, what we see a lot of is people are a little too vague with what they want. And then when they try to train, then they become hyper-specific, but then all of a sudden they're in the wrong kind of atmosphere. I might see a basketball player training like a bodybuilder. I'm like, well, one doesn't correlate with the other. A 400-pound bench press is nice, but as a basketball player, at some point you kind of like just pass the limit that you'll ever need to use this.
Yeah, well, there's a threshold because Kevin Durant used to bench, less than 180 or something? He couldn't bench 180 at the combine.
And one of the best players in the NBA for a very long time. You're seeing him buck the trend of what you might need to see in an athlete. So when we talk about getting the size and building this, are we putting ourselves under the right type of stress? If I were to dive deep on that, a lot of people only know one way to increase the stress is to add more weight. Now we're coming across a lot of skeletal issues where, hey, you're deadlifting 600 pounds. It's a lot of beat up on the body. Are you making sure you're loading that properly? Are you spacing this often out? Are you every day just kind of just beating yourself because you're forever chasing the dragon, right? You're just going after it and wanting to build on that. So yes, we have our simple terms of hypertrophy training and strength training and what are our rep ranges and our sets, percent-wise. Let's look at some other modalities that will increase your ability to increase size. What's the time under tension like? Are we doing any kind of static holds, muscle recruitment, motor control? My favorite exercise I'll give to everybody from the most elite athlete I've worked with to the grandma who just wants to be able to play with her grandkids.
What is that?
The split squat hold. Get into a lunge position.
Tell them about that. Tell them.
So,
do you want me to perform it?
Let's perform it. Let's see it real quick.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So the split squat. Do you want me to do the knees over toes or just the
we can do a basic one. We can just go maybe a little knees over toes, but we're going to be holding this position right here, right? Now, a lot of people can get into this position. A lot of people can walk during this position. What happens when you have to hold it for 30 seconds and the body's starting to shake, right? And we start to have those little trembles. Yeah. This is telling you that your body doesn't know how to control this. It doesn't know how to recruit all of these fibers to then allow for when you need to move into the action. Maybe you're only utilizing 60% of the muscle fibers in your quads when you're going off on a sprint. What happens if you can use all 100% and your body's trained to do that? For one, that missing percentage of muscle fibers will grow. I've instituted split squat holds on myself, utilizing a DEXA scan and realized that I stopped squatting, I stopped deadlifting, leg extension, all that. The only thing I do are body weight squats and split squat holds. I didn't lose a single ounce of muscle mass in my legs over a 3-month period. And that was utilizing a DEXA scan. I'm down to 1/100th of a gram being able to see my exact muscle mass. These things are potent. So, we come into the isometrics.
There we go.
Isometrics are a huge way to really recruit muscle fibers to allow that growth to happen if what you're trying to do is get bigger. Same aspect, the more muscle mass you have, the higher that metabolic rate is. Most people think about increasing their ceiling. Bring that floor up. If you burn 3,000 calories on an average day without exercising, how easy is it to lose fat? I even tell some of the girls that I'll work with, it's like, if I got the muscle mass up, you can eat whatever you want. Provided it's healthy, but you can eat what you want. You don't have to worry about that so much where you're trying to restrict yourself on the food intake. Because then what's going to happen here is you're going to hate training because training means the eating habit has to be a certain way. And then you start having this like negative emotion tied to this whole process. And if you don't like something, you won't do it. It doesn't matter. Very few people will ever push themselves to do the things that they need to. So if we're going for the broad population, love it. Make it so it's not difficult on yourself.
Yeah.
Simple movements.
Yeah, I think there's not enough knowledge around that because it's not as flashy. It's not as sexy.
Yeah.
Oh, so you mean to tell me that I can just hold weight and I can keep muscle on or gain more muscle, right? That increase that time under tension. Because people are used to going through an eccentric and concentric phase. What about the isometric, the amortization phase of it? What about that pause phase of it? Why can't I hold that for tension? But what about the tendons as well when you're in that phase?
So along here, what you also have when we get into the tendons is your stretch reflex, so your Golgi tendon receptors, the other receptors in these muscles that are going to provide information to the brain to make the adaptations you need. When we're holding these, we're creating this saying, hey, we're actually good here, we're safe, and we're strengthening this, so now our range of motion becomes easier. From an athlete, range of motion is everything. Strength is almost, very few sports and positions in sports require this kind of strength, right? We look at some of the greatest athletes, sports athletes, you got a Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What kind of real muscle mass did this guy develop other than he had a nice in-shape body that was strong and capable for what he needed to do?
Or even Michael Jordan before he put on the weight to go against the Pistons, right?
Yeah.
He was 195, 185.
And at 6'6"?
6'6".
That's small. That's skinny by all the standards that we would kind of talk about now. But the tendons were able to handle the load. This is that adaptations to those imposed demands. So we get into, like how you referenced the difference in that split squat. Do we want to go knees over toes? A lot of people harp on this perfect technique for a lift. And I'm kind of almost against it. Do the movement, because when you're out in the real world, you move funny. You get out of a car, it's not really a lateral lunge. It's this weird twist and thing. So if I taught you how to do the perfect lateral lunge, and then you stepped out of your Lambo, your Ferrari, right? You got this little sitting car. You twist your knee up. Now what? The knees over toes, what I loved about this was he showed people not only by like demonstrating and saying, hey, we should be able to do this. He was the example. He's showing you at his age, doing these things. We're doing things that 18-year-olds are doing. You know, I'm 40. I play sports all the time. I do these things. I do these weird movement patterns, and I work on the end ranges and the static holds, and this allows me to perform better. It's not about how much muscle I put on my body, because the last time I was really powerlifting, my back was tight. My legs, my hamstrings were hurting. I tried to get across the street to, in the parking lot, and I make my little jog, and I'm feeling everything kind of lock up. I'm like, this is not normal. So we have one method that everybody knows. It's just lift the weights.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. I just think that the hyper focus on that versus, hey, why don't we look at these other aspects?
Absolutely.
You know, how can we work on this mobility factor? How can we work on these weird end ranges that you will always find yourself in sports? So,
and working on those allows for you to play longer and look better longer, right? Because they say the best ability is availability.
Yeah.
Right? If you are hurt and injured, good luck. Yeah.
And I find this really funny, especially in the non-professional athlete sphere, where we'll have guys working out 5-6 days a week, pushing mad weight, and a lot of respect to that. But then you see them at home, and they can't pick the kid up off the floor because their back is too tight. I know 3 people that have thrown their backs out, picking up the remote and flushing the toilets. But they deadlift 800 pounds.
Hold up, Tom. So you mean to tell me they flushed the toilet, threw the back out? What happened after that? Like, what was the
I'm glad they didn't call me to help them. No, so it's, when people find out the stuff that I do, and they go, oh, well, what happened here? What happened here? This happened to me. And I hear these stories. I'm like, so you're deadlifting 800 pounds. You're the guy in the gym that everyone stops and watches get the lift done, right? We've seen these videos. And then you pick up the remote off the floor, you turn around to flush the toilet, and your back threw out. You're putting way too much stress on your body. And then I'll say, for what reason? Did you practice these end ranges of motion? Do you rotate?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even rotate.
Yeah.
So then what happens when we talk about putting that knee past the toe? If you've never done it, the body's going to freak out. So I've never been here before. It might overreact. And then next you know, you're not able to control these.